Time now for our next segment, that's Web News Review, and our correspondent Arun Sharma is joining us with it.
Breakfast Show. And now in this segment of Breakfast Show, this is a Web News Review where we have picked up top 10 news for viewers which are dominating in various web news websites. So let's begin the segment. Now, first article that we have picked up is from Hindustan Times. Now, this says that France describes India as foremost Asian strategic partnership. Now, this is a very important statement from France ahead of the induction ceremony of Rafale jets that is going to take place today. Now, the Defense Minister of France, Florence Parly, will be attending this event as a chief guest, and she'll also be meeting the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and, of course, the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Now, moving on to the second big news that we have picked up from Times of India. Now, this news article says that Chief of Defense Staff. Now, this again is news from the defense sector. Now, Chief of Defense Staff General Bipin Rawat favors reform of defense PSUs. Now, he also says that some vintage military platforms can be exported. So, yes, we have gradually seen that under Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India initiative. Now, India is, developing its own capacities and capabilities as far as defense equipments are concerned. So now, but more reforms are required as far as defense PSUs are concerned. As far as working culture in these defense PSUs are concerned, so that we can become a global hub as far as defense equipments are concerned. The third big news is from the DNA news website. Now, the national education policy, or primarily Himachal Pradesh, you can say that, has become the first state in our country to implement the national education policy. We know this fact, Anil and Preeti, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has recently appealed to all the states to come forward and to implement this reformist education policy primarily in all the states. And that's what we are seeing, that Himachal Pradesh has become primarily the first state to implement this education policy, or the national education policy. The fourth news article that we have picked up from the Statesman. Now, this is an important news from the energy sector, and primarily from the solar energy sector. Now, it says that Haryana's Siwani district takes step forward towards Atmanirbhar Bharat with 10 megawatt of solar park. Now, we know this fact that a company called the Raise Experts, which is the leading EPC, has developed a solar park in Haryana's Siwani. Now, this will play an important role as far as providing solar electricity to various people in Haryana. Now, we know this fact that the power tariff as far as solar energy is concerned has dropped below 2.5 rupees per unit. That means 2 rupee 50 paisa per unit. So, yes, a cost-efficient energy for the people of Haryana going forward. And yes, Haryana will also be on a map of, the solar energy globally, and on an Indian map as well, whereby the first solar park has been developed by Raise Experts. Now, moving on to our fifth news. Now, this fifth news article is from Economic Times. Now, it says that IMF says that coronavirus crisis is far from over and more support is needed. That means more and more multilateral approach and cooperation is required to treat or try to deal with this COVID crisis. There are various developing countries and underdeveloped countries which are facing a real brunt as far as, fighting against COVID is concerned, as far as economic aspect is concerned. So more of a multilateral cooperation is required as far as, dealing with the COVID crisis or impact of COVID crisis is concerned. Now, moving on to sixth article. Now, this is from Deccan Herald. Now, United Nations agencies supports Indian government-led efforts to deal with coronavirus pandemic. So earlier we have seen that World Health Organization has, praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi and, complimented and appreciated the efforts of Indian government, the way they are dealing with the COVID crisis. So now the various UN agencies are now supporting the Indian government-led efforts as far as dealing with the COVID crisis is concerned. Now, moving on to the seventh big article. This is from Indian Express. Now, it says that Railways works on upgrading sleeper and general class coaches to the AC. So the Indian Express over here is quoting the sources and saying that Rail Coach Factory in Kapurthala has been entrusted with the job of making prototype of upgraded sleeper class coach and converting it to AC. So we can expect that more and more general coaches and the sleeper coaches will be turned into AC compartments going forward. So that's a big statement and big reform if in case this happens as far as the railway sector is concerned. Now, moving on to our eighth big article, this is from sports sector. Now, all those UV lovers and Yuvraj Singh lovers, good news is waiting for you. Yes, we know this fact. We also remember Yuvraj Singh for those 6 sixes, or primarily 6s and 6 balls. So, Yuvraj Singh has written a letter to BCCI BCCI, and he says that he wants to come out of retirement and he probably can play the T20 format. Now, apparently, the Punjab Cricket Association, the secretary Puneet Bali has approached Yuvraj Singh and he has asked Yuvraj Singh to come out of the retirement and to play for the benefit of Punjab cricket. So that's a big news, and it's also trending on Twitter. We can also expect Yuvraj Singh soon coming back as far as the T20 formats are concerned. Now, ninth big news is from a Twitter handle of Shipping Minister Mansukh Mandavia. Now, he says, and he has tweeted, that innovative concrete floating jetties on way to Ahmedabad. We know this fact that there is a proposed seaplane operations between Ahmedabad's Sabarmati to the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, or primarily you can say Narmada River, whereby the Statue of Unity is there. So a seaplane is expected soon, whereby the services are likely to be started from month of October. So a jetty is being constructed. Now, this is a very innovative idea to construct a jetty in Ahmedabad's Sabarmati River. So that's an important part. Now, last but not the least, the top 10th. The 10th news is from our DD News website. That's ddinews.gov.in. Now, it says that Make in India device, or indigenous device for preventing blood clot in deep vein, primary deep veins, can lower costs of saving life-threatening conditions. So over here, the Sri Chitra Trinul Institute of Medical Science, now this is also an autonomous institute under the Department of Science and Tech. So it has developed an indigenous device which can prevent the deep vein thrombosis. So well, that's it in this web news review. Well, for all the other news and updates, you can also follow our Twitter handle and of course our news website, that is ddinews.gov.in. But yes, for other news and updates, back to you, Anil and Preeti.
Arun seems to be really excited about that morning and the comeback that he's making with this particular news segment that we've